haunt world lost a good one. Jan Knuth passed away. Jan was a admin of our group. She was the owner of Gray House Haunts. She lost her battle with cancer on November 11th, 2025. I had the pleasure to meet Jan at Trans World a few years ago. We got to hang out and talk about haunts and relax a little bit with everybody, and that was a good time. Jan has been on many of our calls and masterminds. She was a member of the Haunter's Toolbox. In this episode, we get a past episode of Jan talking about her book, Not Afraid to Slay, which is all about the women in the haunt industry. If you don't own this book, I recommend go buying this book. I believe it's still available on Amazon. It's called Not Afraid to Slay, Women of the Haunt Industry. This is a memory of Jan. This is a older podcast episode. We decided to republish this in Jan's memory. So if you knew Jan, go share your love. Go share how good of a person she was. If you don't know Jan, you might buy this book, which might help you understand a little bit of Jan's perspective of the haunt world. Jan, rest in peace. You will be missed.
Welcome to Haunt Topic Radio, the podcast for haunters by haunters. These are our scary visions.
August already? You know what that means. Haunt season is coming. Welcome back, haunters, to another episode of Haunt Topic Radio. In this podcast, it's a little bonus episode. We get Jan Knuth on from, she does a lot of things in the industry. Mainly, we are talking about her new book, Not Afraid to Slay, Women of the Haunt Industry. Now, a couple years ago, we had Jan on with a couple other wonderful ladies talking about the haunt industry. We need more of this in the industry because there are so many talented females that do things in the industry, and there's owners, there's actors, there's special makeup artists, there's costumers, there's sliders. We get Jan on and talk about her starting in the industry and how things happen for her, things that are going on in the industry now, and maybe things that we could change and be a little better. If you have not bought this book, go out and buy it. It's on Amazon. Other places you find books, it is there. That's Jan Knuth. She spells her last name Knuth. That's also with Candy S. Cross. It's a short book, quick read. I have it right here in my hand, 95 pages. So I hope you guys are building, decorating, getting ready for the season. If you're not, make sure to go out and support some of these haunts that are open this season. Because another crazy year, and we don't know what's going to happen. Some are already putting restrictions in place, but be safe, go support your haunts, and we'll be putting another podcast out soon. So let's roll into our interview with Jan Knuth from Not Afraid to Slay book and Gray House Haunts.
I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And I think, there's not that many books about our industry. And it's certainly not, like I said, it's not a how-to, but it's just to highlight us.
So for people that haven't read it yet, tell us a little bit about what it is.
Well, I was approached last fall in 2020. Okay, actually, my husband approached an author and said my wife needs a project because she can't open the haunt. And so I said, well, I'll do a book, but I won't do a book just about me because I felt awkward. That was weird. And so I said, but I will do a book about women in haunting. And I wanted to just kind of put some people on pedestals, not specific people, but just show that there's more to haunting. There's a lot of women in haunting, and we own haunts. We manage them, direct them, costumers, vendors, all kinds of women in haunting. And then I thought, well, I can't leave the guys out because, it wouldn't be fair, for one thing. But also, there are some tremendous influencers in our industry that are men, and I wanted their perspective, and how do they handle female cast members? How are you protective of them? Do you need to be protective of, that kind of thing? So we just interviewed, I think it came to 11 people. And so there's a little bit of everybody's voice in the book, which I really like. And it gives you different perspectives from across the country, basically.
And you had help doing this book as well?
Yeah, Candy Cross. She's out of New York. Um, she's normally a ghostwriter, but in this case, she did put her name on the book. And I think, for me anyway, that kind of spoke volumes that she thought a lot of the book, that she would put her name on it. Normally, it would just be like my name. So the name of her company is You Talk, I Write. So I didn't write, I talked. But it's certainly written in my voice. Almost everything she wrote, I said at some point through hours of interviews. And then there's a couple of things in there that I wrote myself, like the dedication and the acknowledgments. I did those, but otherwise it was Candy.
Excellent.
Yeah. Question: as a ghostwriter, how much did she direct you in that interview process? Were you just spilling your guts, or did she give you sort of a framework and help you develop that into an outline of the book?
Yes. Well, when she interviewed me, we actually started a year and a half ago. We were talking about haunting. And what I didn't know was she was retaining all of this. And so I started my interview a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And then when we were interviewing the other participants, like Brian, I let her lead with the questions. And since most of these people I knew at least a little bit, they'd be talking and I'd get excited and I'd jump in, and next thing you know, we're talking haunt, and then we'd have to reel it back a little bit and try to stay on course, because we wanted to hit some specific topics, like about, females in your cast, and how women tend to find a great release expression in this industry, that kind of thing. But yeah, we veered off course quite often.
It's easy to do.
It is.
So what was your, what did you take away from the book when you wrote it? Did you learn anything about the industry that you didn't know or feel differently about?
I don't know if I learned anything. It was more things were accentuated for me. I learned that you can't make everybody happy. Relearned. And I also, there was something very interesting. I have talked to 2 separate groups of women in the industry, privately and on Facebook. So, 2 completely different conversations. And what I found was that whether it's discrimination or full-on harassment, it takes many forms. And I was a little surprised by this, but I know myself, I've run into a little discrimination, nothing I can't handle. And then it goes the full gamut to women that have been assaulted. And then you have women that are like, I have never been discriminated against. And I found that really interesting, that I wonder, maybe I should do some kind of study. I'm not gonna, but let's just say I would. That their perception, or have they truly not experienced that? Because to me, discrimination can be as simple as, like a story in the book is, when I was opening my haunt, I had a contractor come and I wanted to put in a stairwell on the outside of the house, which proved to be remarkably expensive. So I didn't do it. But he started talking to my husband, and I finally said to him, I'm the one writing the check. You need to talk to me. Because his assumption was that it was my husband running the show. So, and that's fairly minor. I'm not going to get all, freaked out and not sleep for nights over that. But it is a form of discrimination.
Definitely is.
But that some women just perceive it so differently, I found really interesting. Maybe it's just their point of view. And I have no explanation for it.
So you probably met some new friends along the way, huh?
I did. A couple of people I had seen them on Facebook or something, but had never met them. And of course, this was all on Zoom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Scott Swenson, we had a great conversation. We really veered off. He and I did. Um, Someday I'd really like to sit down and have a drink with him because I think we could be
It's
good.
easy to do with Scott. He's so
Yeah,
like a sponge. He just like,
he is, and he's so informative. And I love to talk to people that want to share ideas. Like it's just a form of brainstorming, and that appeals to my brain a lot. So I really enjoyed conversations like that. And then I met some people couple I'd never even heard of, but were recommended to me. Casey Cole. She's in Louisville, Kentucky now. She was an amazing interview. She was one of those, she was really easy. We asked like 3 questions and she just ran with it. So it was really interesting talking to her. So, yeah, it's been really nice. I went to the Texas Honors Convention a week and a half ago. And so I got to meet a few people because of the book, that now we're Facebook friends. We've private messaged a couple times already. So yeah, it's kind of opening the world up a little bit. So that's nice.
you're out there doing autographs, weren't you?
It was a little weird. It was a lot weird. I had a gal, I was walking across the parking lot and I hear someone yell my name, and I turned and looked, and there's this woman running at me and I don't know her. And she's like holding this book up, and I thought, is she going to hit me? What's she doing? And yeah, I'll leave that other comment out. Anyway, so she said, would you sign my book? And I was like, oh, of course. Yeah, of course I would. It was the most bizarre experience, and she was so nice. And actually, it was really great because she told me that not only did she like the book, but that it had brought up a lot of discussion in her household about the experiences women have, that men don't, and vice versa. And I thought, well, that's great because, again, just discussion, so we can figure out how we each perceive the world.
Right.
I think Scarlet badges are one of the smartest things I've seen in the industry in a really long time. Scarlet badges are basically either pins or embroidered patches, kind of like merit badges, as they are, somewhat named after, from Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Brownies, and where after you've accomplished something, you can wear the brag tag of the embroidered patch. Some haunts put them on jackets, some put them on t-shirts, some put them on, with the pins, I've seen them put them on lanyards. But the neat thing about them is they are very specific in what they are rewarding. And they're haunt-based images that reflect what's being rewarded. It's retention, it is bringing people back, and it's actually giving your haunters, your haunt performers, the ability to share that they are haunt performers. And, oh really, you're a scare actor. Where do you do that? And then they will insert the name of your haunt right there. So it's also marketing. I've always been a big fan of Scarlet badges. I think they're great. So check them out, scarletbadges.com. No, that is not a paid advertisement. That is just my recommendation. I think it's really cool.
ScottSwenson.com.
It'd be great if those experiences in the household or with some of the children and family and friends, so that they have an alternate view of what goes on and maybe correct it at a young age, right?
Absolutely. Like the experience with the contractor and my husband, it can be as simple as you're talking to your friend and they say, I went to the doctor. And then you say, what did he say? That is saying that to young girls, that's saying women can't be doctors. And a lot of us don't perceive of that. I've done that. I've said that exact thing. That's why I use it as an example. We need to stop assuming that, a costumer is a female. Not all costumers are female, and not all doctors are men.
Yep.
So what do you see like in the haunt industry? Like you just brought up a good example. What are some other examples that you kind of learned throughout the book that we could do better?
I think one of the things that I've seen is, and this depends on the haunt. It's not my way. I can only speak from my own experience and my own perspective. I never want to do anything that's going to make one of my staff uncomfortable, whether they're male or female. No matter what gender they identify with. For instance, and this was somewhere we veered in the book a little bit, was sexual orientation and gender identity, because obviously there's some discrimination there. And I have an actor who, when she first started with me, was dressed very feminine, wore her hair very femininely. And then the next year she came back and her aesthetic was extremely masculine. And so I thought, okay, what do I do with this? I'm just a woman from Nebraska. I'm not all hip and cool. And so I just asked her, I said, what kind of character would you like me to put you in? Would you like it to be male or female? And she said, I don't care. And I had an actor ask me, well, is she gay? Is she this? Is she that? And I said, I don't care. Mm-hmm. She does her job. She lives up to the commitment she's made to me. I did clarify pronouns with her. But other than that, I do not care. That's her business. If she wants to share it with me, she will. And if she doesn't, she doesn't. But I think we need to have some communication. And I know a lot of us are uncomfortable, with people that we think are different. But if you just treat people with a little respect, you don't even need the whole story, because probably it's not your business if you're the haunt owner.
Yeah. And it does come down to, can they do their job? Can they scare or entertain that customer? Because in the end, that's really what's about. We're looking for whatever it takes to do that. Male, female, whatever your identity, whatever, as long as you're doing what the customer is not expecting or expecting, right?
And this is the haunt industry. We're a weird bunch anyway. So it's
exactly
nobody is, everyone has their thing, and it's like going to the conventions because I like seeing all of that, and and it's great, the versatility of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a young actor that, and I don't even know the name of the haunt. It doesn't matter. But he worked for me for 2 years, and then he went to the big city and worked in a haunt, and he came back and he was changed and almost despondent. And so I asked him what happened, what made you change? And what happened was he had been bullied at this other haunt. And I think it broke his heart a little bit, because he felt like he'd found his people, he'd found his tribe, and then they kind of stomped on him a little. And so I've not seen bullying at my haunts specifically, but I do now give them a little preaching to about, we are the outcasts, so therefore we are inclusive. We're the freaks, and so we need to be nice to each other. You don't have to agree with each other, but you will be nice, or you won't be at my haunt. And he's since recovered from that, and he's gone on to what appears at least to be what's going to be a successful career in the haunt industry.
Good.
Excellent.
Been a good role model.
I have tried. I have tried.
Yeah, we raise them up, and that's the thing about us, haunt owners and managers, is that we do kind of take them under our wing and raise them up and watch them fly away. I've had ones that go off to college and art school and theater school, and it's just like,
yeah, I found myself in an interesting situation this summer. I had no assistants. They were all gone.
Wow.
Like I said, they moved away, they went to college, they thought they had to grow up and get a real job, stuff like that. And so I've been kind of patchworking people in to help me. And normally I have like these 3 people come on these 3 days, and we just work until we stop. And so it's been a little different this year, but hopefully it'll still work out.
Yeah. Well, just, like what they say, I asked that question on Hunter's Toolbox about what kind of advice did you get the first time haunt owners. And of course, the old quote, well, the customers don't know that you didn't get something done if you didn't get something done. and some are thinking that the mask mandates and some of the COVID stuff might come back.
There's that potential.
Yeah.
So this is another weird year, going into another weird year anyway. A lot of people are just saying, just survive it. Just, if you're going to open up, just survive it and do what you can. I know a lot of people were successful last year, putting the mandates in place and stuff. So just hang in there, Jan.
Yeah. Well, just 2 hours ago, I got a message from my niece who grew up and moved away and got a real job. But she just found out that as of tomorrow, where she works is requiring masks again, and that's in Kansas. Now, she works with people with disabilities, so a lot of them are more susceptible to disease and that kind of thing. So, not quite a medical place, but still close contact with a vulnerable population. I think it's possible that we're going to get at least some stricter mandates. I'm praying we don't get shut down in any way.
Right.
Well, just keep that contingency plan in the back of your mind as to how you can run a haunt with everybody masked.
Right.
And then hopefully you don't have to go there. But,
hopefully we don't have to. I had a plan last year, and I think I'll still follow it with Brian mentioned when we were talking earlier about the expanded queue, that kind of thing. I'll be using more noisemakers this year, which is what I intended last year, that kind of thing. So I'm still going to do that because last year we had set the house for that. And I thought, well, I'm not starting from scratch this year. I don't have enough money. I didn't make any last year.
Yeah.
So we're just doing a kind of a continuum, and I think we'll be able to open. I think still using hand sanitizer and stuff, no matter what the powers that be say.
Right. So tell us where we can find your haunt. People.
My haunt is in Holdridge, Nebraska. You probably can't find it, but you can Google it. It's Gray House Haunts, and we are a true Halloween haunted house. It's actually just a large old house that I decided to make spooky. But it's a good haunt. It's the little haunt that could. That's what I always call it.
Yeah. What's the population of your town again?
We're about 5,500. And so, in 2019, in 6 nights, we did 3,400 people. And you figure, that's 3/5 of our population.
Mm-hmm.
I dare somebody else to do that, but of course we're pulling from the other communities, but I'm 3 hours west of Omaha. And Omaha's the only place anybody's ever heard of in Nebraska, it seems like, except maybe Lincoln.
Right.
So I'm literally out in the middle of the plains. And so, it's a little tough to get people to come here. There's people 30 minutes from here that don't even know where Holdridge is. But I think we've done pretty well. I enjoy it. And my customers seem to. So.
Yeah, last time I checked, it was almost 12,000 people. So luckily, Mexico is kind of a mid-sized town, so people know it. It's right off, it's 15 minutes from the interstate. And the haunt is it's hard left, and then we're right there. We're on a highway, so that kind of helps me because people are coming from like Fulton and Kingdom City and Columbia and Jeff City and St. Louis. So it's easier to find because I'm not out too far. I'm still in a kind of a commercial district, so it helps me that I'm right on the highway. But I know that towns, I've been to some small haunts and they're great because the creativity that we put into them.
Right.
Is, because we don't have the budget like other people do. So all of our characters and sets are completely original. And it's, we had one that was about 40 minutes from here out in the woods. It was on his farm. He had barns and Mr. Bill's Thrills. and he shut down. And I would always go back there every single year. We would get a crew of guys and go. But yeah, it was just old, simple scare tricks, startles, handful of actors. I like it. I would like to. The concept of yours and what you've talked about is great. So, because I like old houses.
Yeah, and I tend to lean kind of the actor theatrical. We don't have a huge budget. I can't afford the big animatronics, and even the ones I could afford, sometimes I literally don't have the space for them. So yeah, you do. You get really creative. Last night, my helper that was there with me, we cut pallets in half to make the lower half of a cemetery fence because I can't get a tall enough cemetery fence by the 1st of October. And so we're going to put short wrought iron on top of a pallet. And then I'm going to cover it with greenery so it looks like a hedge. And it will look great. We'll make it look great. But that kind of creativity for me is the biggest payday. But I love that part. I feel like I'm winning and creating at the same time.
That's important, because if you get bogged down in some of the stuff, just like you're saying, or Brian was saying, the guests don't know what isn't done, in most cases. So you do something like that, and you found a way to create something new, make it close. It wasn't exactly maybe your final ideal, but still, it sets that mood, sets that atmosphere, sets up the rest of your haunted house. And it's like, oh, I did that, right?
Yeah.
I made this out of, it's not exactly what I wanted, but damn, it works really well.
And sometimes it's even better than the original thing might be. This shrubbery idea. Well, now I have somewhere to hide lights, and wires and people. Maybe
pop-up actors.
Yeah. So it might actually work better, and I'm saving some money just because the shipping date wasn't going to work.
Do you know what causes haunted attractions to shut down before they even get started? The top 3 roadblocks are lack of funding, lack of leadership, lack of resources. As a member of the Haunters Toolbox, you get instant access to the tools you need to start and grow your own haunted attraction business. To get started, become a member at haunterstoolbox.com.
But I do find a lot of the joy I get from haunting is that exact kind of thing.
Right.
It feels like a victory.
Yeah, that's I got all this stuff I've been hanging on to, just big pile of, well, I don't say pile, but it's stacked on shelves. I know what it's going to be eventually. Old chandeliers, old barrels.
I have 2.
Yeah. So you just go walk around that shelf. You're like, oh, that, and that. Perfect. Just cram it together.
A lot of times my staff, we'll be standing there and we'll think, how would we, fasten this or connect these two? And I'll just stare at it a while. And then I just kind of run away, grab a box and just start going through it because I know there's this one weird chain in there, and it's like, voila, here it is, I don't know. It feeds my soul.
That's important.
Do you do that? Well, I do it. I don't know. I just got to stand there in the scene for like 5 minutes, just like nothing, just looking at it, analyzing it, trying to picture where the lighting's going to be coming from,
And then you walk away. It's almost bedtime, so you go have a shower, and then you figure out what it was you're trying to do. So you either write it down or you get out of the shower and head back out there and get dirty again, trying to reassemble what you just had an idea of, right?
Yeah. Do it before the thought fades away.
Exactly.
So back to the book. Who did your cover, by the way? Good.
Well, it was a design company in New York. And what I did was I gave them very specific instructions. I said, I want a traditional witch, the hat, etc. And I want her to be beautiful and kind of sensual, but not cartoonish. You know, I don't want her to look like she's twerking or, you know, anything like that. And they sent me 3 mock-ups, and this was the third one I opened, and it actually brought tears to my eyes, because I was like, that's it. That was exactly what was in my head. She's powerful, she's beautiful, and she ain't nobody's fool, you know.
You have a copy of it with you right there?
I do.
There it is.
See, isn't that beautiful? They did such a
Yes.
beautiful job.
It's perfect.
And I asked them to put a jack-o'-lantern in there, largely because so often we're confused with the paranormal.
Very much so.
And I didn't want people to think, oh, this is a paranormal book, because, you know, I don't want to mislead anybody.
Mhm.
You know, I hope they buy the book too, but I don't want them to think that's what it is about. So with the jack-o'-lantern, I felt that conveyed that it's Halloween haunt industry.
Right. That's a good idea. So where can we buy the book and find the book and find you?
It is on Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, and Target.com picked it up last week, which was a really pleasant surprise. You can find me at greyhousehaunts.com or on Facebook at Greyhouse Haunts. And yeah, I would love to hear the feedback. You know, hear if people are liking it. You know, what aspects do they like, and were they able to have discussions about it? You know, because I think that's ultimately what I'm hoping for is highlighting the women in the industry, but also a discussion about our industry.
Excellent. Gerald, you have any more questions for Jan before we let her go?
Well, the only thing is I know there are some people out there that, you know, you've already had this experience, but that want an autographed copy.
Yeah.
So when are you going to be at any conventions, sessions, seminars, or are you going to be, you know, out there selling this book again?
You know, I don't have any plans this year, because, you know, I have a haunt to open.
Yep.
But I will definitely be at Transworld this coming year. I'm going to scoop my niece up from that job she has, and we're going to St. Louis. So, you know, I would be happy to. I mean, by then people probably don't care if they get my autograph or not. But if you did want to, I will plan on being there.
Well, I will see you there.
Yeah,
I will see you both there, I hope.
Some of our listeners will be getting their autographed copies too, we hope. So
I hope so.
But don't wait until then. Get your copy now. Get her on the bestsellers list, damn it. And then get your autographed copy, because then you can have one that you don't even crack open. It'll be pristine, autographed. And then you've got the dog-eared one that's sitting on your nightstand that you've read through 6 times already.
Everybody should buy 2.
Buy them for Christmas presents and hand them out. Halloween gifts for your scare actors.
You know what? That's an excellent idea. Yeah. And you could put a little Scarrett badge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like right here
on there. Yeah.
Oh, an author Scarrett badge.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to go and probably get some rest for work tomorrow. Thanks, Jan, for meeting up with us. It was good to talk.
Thank you, guys. I always
Jan.
enjoy talking to you.
You too.
We'll see you next time.
Until we meet again.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. I just want to pause for a moment and thank Philip from the Haunted Attraction Network. If you guys listen to this podcast, you'll love everything that Philip is doing over at the Haunted Attraction Network. That's hauntedattractionnetwork.com. There's weekly podcasts. Philip also does the seasonal entertainment source magazine that is free to subscribe to. Yes, it is a real magazine to your mailbox. Him and Scott Swinson also do Green Tagged. But if you're subscribed to the Haunted Attraction Network feed, then you will get it in your podcast player. So go on and check out everything the Haunted Attraction Network has to offer. And make sure to sign up for their email newsletter at hauntedattractionnetwork.com/newsletter.
This podcast episode sponsored by Scarrett Badges. Get your Scarrett Badges at scarebadges.com. Also sponsored by Haunter's Toolbox. Take your haunt to the next level at haunterstoolbox.com. Thank you for listening to Haunt Topic Radio. Please leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. Each comment you leave will help spread the word to other haunters around the world. See you next time.